For Senate, Angus King or Cynthia Dill. Both are reliable Obama allies on health care and taxes, but there are differences. Cynthia Dill is pro-labor and supports raising the minimum wage. Angus King vetoed it. Dill is known as a bold progressive and a champion of marriage equality and stronger gun laws. Cynthia Dill, a Democrat you can feel good about.
We're running an ad that was run for you, Cynthia Dill, because it points to a fascinating set of circumstances. Specifically in Maine, you're the Democratic nominee, there's a Republican nominee, and then there is an independent running by a man named Angus King, very well-known in the state, two-term governor, had hosted a talk show, I think, at some point, a television show. Very well-known, high levels of name recognition, has polled quite highly in the early polls, although you've told me that those are old polls. And this was a super PAC ad taken out by whom on your behalf?
It's a Republican super PAC by the name of Freedom Works. And while it's unusual in a lot of respects, it's also erroneous in one regard, and that is that Angus King supports extending Bush tax cuts for everybody. So he's on the side of the Republicans when it comes to tax fairness. I support the president's view that we should extend tax cuts only for families making less than $250,000. But the ad itself is certainly a phenomenon in politics, at least in my lifetime. I've never seen the Republicans do something to help me like they did in this ad. And I understand from news reports that today a new ad is going to be rolling out from the same Republican super PAC, so I haven't seen it, but hopefully it talks about my great legislative record.
Well, and this is a fairly cynical attempt to essentially get Democrats to split the vote of Democrats between Angus King and yourself, paving the way for a path to victory for the Republican opponent, Charlie Summers.
Right. I mean, there's nothing really good to say about the Republican candidate, so what they're trying to do is repeat
what happened with the governor's race,
which is absolutely impossible given the circumstances.
Kirsten, are you seeing there's going to be a lot of money on both sides? The national committees are going to probably spend a lot of money in that district. You're on the red to blue list. Are you seeing super PAC money or dark money from the 501c4s, groups like Freedom Works or Crossroads? Is that a specter that looms in your race?
Well, we're not sure what's going to happen in the general election in this race, but I can tell you, Chris, I just went through a very hard-fought primary. There was a super PAC against me in the primary. It was a shadowy group from Tennessee. We don't know where the money came from. We have no information about it, but we do expect that to play again. And as you mentioned, Chris, I'm on the red to blue list, which the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has listed 50 seats across the country as their top priority to switch from Republican to Democrat, or in my case, a brand new district that is pretty evenly split between Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So we do expect to see the specter of secret outside money in this race. From our perspective, we think it's even more important that we do a good job of defining ourselves and the folks that we serve early on in the race so that people aren't swayed by some of this shady. Exactly.
Are you seeing that kind of money, Nate?
Well, absolutely. Well, in my district, one of the big issues is fracking, natural gas fracking, high volume, hydraulic, slick water, horizontal fracking. And this stuff is, it has a big risk to our water in the area. Congressman Reed's the co-chair of the Marcellus Gas Shale Caucus. The American Petroleum Institute is already sending mailers into the district. Other oil and gas industry PACs and super PACs are contributing to this race. And so I'm definitely seeing it already. But also, I want to mention that this, even before this Citizens United era, the influence of money in politics is there. I mean, my opponent, I've raised $500,000 already from mostly individuals. My opponents have raised $790,000 from corporate political action committees.
Right.
And that influence of money is a huge problem.
Absolutely.
So that's why, we need to absolutely be pushing, especially as progressives here too, for public financing of elections so we get the money out of politics and actually get democracy in the hands of middle class people.
How much time, give me an estimate, of your time spent waking and working, I'm going to go around the table, do you spend raising money? Be honest.
75%.
Well,
you're in a bit of a different situation.
It's a different situation, but we raised over $1 million in a heated primary that was necessary in order to get our message out. These congressional districts have grown, 717,000 people in size now. The cost of media in order to be able to broadcast.
How much time?
Out,
How much time are you
I'd say greater than 50%.
We spend about 25 hours a week in call time, and the rest of the time out meeting voters. And so
Yeah, I spend about 25 hours a week too, and actually I have a big rural district, and so when the places where I can't get cell service, I relish the lack of cell service.
Because there's no. And Kirsten, how about you?
You know, I spend a lot of time fundraising. The good news about Arizona is that the majority of my donors come from within the district. So I get to spend a lot of time talking to voters about what they care about and garnering support for our grassroots campaign at the same time. But I'll tell you, it's expensive. We spend almost $1 million in our primary. We have to do that same amount again in the general.
I will tell any viewer that's watching, when you hear call time, which may sound like an innocuous phrase, it's a soul-sucking, destroying enterprise of sitting in some fluorescent back room with a telephone and a printed-out sheet of papers and probably a staffer being like, get on the phones, as you call through and ask people for money. I've watched people do it, and if you ever thought that you really thought running for office is going to be a glamorous enterprise, you should go watch someone do call time. More on what those dynamics look like after this break.